Welcome back, everybody, to another deep dive where we take your sources and we really get to the heart of what's important. And today's source material is a fascinating one.
Yes, it is.
It's called Kidron Valley in Beeke, Baca, Jerusalem. Now, I know what you might be thinking, another religious text deep dive.
Right.
But this one is different.
It is.
And we're not here to debate beliefs.
No.
We're here to explore how this author reimagines some very familiar locations. Think of it as adding a new dimension to your mental map.
Yes.
Not throwing out the one that you already have.
I like that.
So with that being said, let's just jump right in.
Yeah, let's jump in.
The author makes a pretty bold claim that the true name and location of Jerusalem, which they call Beeke or Baca, have been deliberately hidden.
Interesting.
Now, the Valley of Baca is mentioned in Psalm 84.5-6. It's usually depicted as a dry, desolate place.
Right.
But this author flips the script and suggests that it's actually a place of springs, referencing the verse that says, pilgrims passing through the Valley of Baca make it a place of springs.
That's interesting.
It is interesting.
By connecting this verse to Jerusalem,
the
author kind of suggests that the city's true identity has been obscured, perhaps intentionally. It makes you wonder what else might be hidden beneath the surface of what we think we know.
Exactly. And it gets even wilder.
The
author connects Jerusalem to the mythical Atlantis.
Oh, wow.
Claiming that it was the first dry land to emerge from the sea.
Now, this connection to Atlantis definitely raises eyebrows.
It does.
Is it purely symbolic? Or is there a deeper historical argument being made here? It's a question worth exploring further.
Absolutely. It's almost like the author is saying, look closer. There's more to this story than meets the eye.
I see.
And speaking of looking closer, the author delves into the etymology of the name Jerusalem, linking it to divine names like Kudos and Al-Salem, meaning sacred and peace.
So it's fascinating how the author weaves together these different threads.
Yes.
Etymology, religious texts,
and
even mythology, to build their case for Jerusalem's true identity and significance.
So essentially they're arguing that Jerusalem isn't just any city. It's the earthly throne of the most merciful. A divinely chosen location with a hidden history.
That's the core of their argument, yes. And it leads to this really interesting analogy where the author compares Earth to a fruit hanging from the tree of the sky.
Okay, now that's a visual I'm not going to forget. So Earth is like an apple on a branch, and Jerusalem is what? The stem.
Exactly. The author uses the term pedicel, which is the botanical term for the stalk that connects a fruit to the branch. They argue that Jerusalem is like that pedicel, the point of connection between earth and heaven.
Wow. So if Jerusalem is the central point connecting earth and heaven, what does that mean for us?
That's a great question.
Does it change how we view our prayers, our actions, our connection to the divine?
Those are excellent questions. If we entertain the author's perspective, it could completely shift our understanding of our place in the universe and our relationship with the divine. It suggests a much more direct and intimate connection than we might traditionally imagine.
It really makes you think. And to back up this idea of Jerusalem as the pedestal the author brings in Quran 18.86, which talks about a figure named Dhul Qarnayn and his journey to the spring of black muddy water.
Interesting.
Now, the author hints that this verse somehow supports their idea of Jerusalem as this cosmic connection point. But they don't fully explain why. What do you think? Could this verse be interpreted in that way?
It definitely makes you wonder. We'll have to keep that in mind as we delve deeper into the author's claims.
For sure. Now, the author also shakes things up with their take on the creation story. They point to verses in the Quran, 15.26 and 15.28, suggesting that the first human wasn't created in the Garden of Eden as traditionally understood, but in Palestine.
And here's where it gets really interesting. The author doesn't just place the creation in Palestine. They also suggest that Adam wasn't the first human at all.
Wait a minute.
They argue that Adam was an update of a previous human, the Israelites. And that he inherited a trust from them.
Hold on, are they saying that Adam wasn't the first human?
It challenges the traditional linear understanding of creation and introduces this intriguing idea of a cyclical process potentially with beings existing before Adam.
So we've got Jerusalem as the true center of the world, a connection to Atlantis, and now a reimagined creation story. It's safe to say this deep dive is already taking us down some unexpected paths.
It definitely is. And it gets even more thought-provoking as we explore how the author challenges the current focus on Mecca and the Vatican as primary religious sites.
Okay. They call out these sites as being crafted to become money-making machines for religious tourism.
Wow.
A pretty bold statement.
Yeah.
They even claim that the original Mecca was actually a place called Mecca Petra. Okay.
Which was destroyed and then rebuilt in its current location.
Mecca Petra is actually the name for the ruins of a once great Nabatean city located in what's now Jordan. To claim it was the original Mecca is a huge departure from traditional understanding.
It is. But remember, we're not here to judge the validity of the author's claims, just to explore them.
Right.
And it's clear they've done some research. They cite figures about the revenue generated from Hajj and Umrah pilgrimages to Mecca, highlighting the immense economic power associated with these pilgrimages. So it seems the author is raising questions about the motivations behind the focus on these particular locations, right, suggesting that there's more to the story than just religious significance.
So it's not just about geography or interpretation. Okay. It's about power dynamics, economic interests, and potentially a hidden history that's been obscured over time.
Wow.
This deep dive is getting deeper by the minute.
It is.
And we haven't even touched on the Kidron Valley yet.
That's where things get really intriguing. The author links the Kidron Valley, which runs through Jerusalem, to the Valley of Darkness, mentioned in Ibn Kathir's Book of Beginnings and Endings, a significant Islamic text that deals with the end times.
Oh, wow. And the author doesn't stop there?
Nope.
They interpret the nearby Valley of Gethsemane, which they say means cuffed kneeling position, as the place of judgment, where believers and non-believers will be separated.
It's a rather stark and unsettling image. They back this interpretation up by referencing verses from the Quran, specifically 19.68 and 19.72, which talk about the gathering of people and the separation of the righteous from the wicked.
It's fascinating how the author weaves together biblical, Quranic, and historical references to build their argument. It's not just one source.
Right.
It's a tapestry of different perspectives woven together to create this alternate view of history and religious significance.
And that's what makes this deep dive so captivating.
Right.
We're not just looking at one text or one perspective.
Right.
We're exploring a multi-layered tapestry of ideas, interpretations, and historical connections.
And the plot thickens, right?
Yes, it does.
Because the author then goes on to challenge the traditional direction of prayer, which is towards Mecca for Muslims.
This is where things get really controversial. They argue that the true Qibla, the direction of prayer, should be towards Beeke, their name for Jerusalem. They even cite Quran 2.142 to support their claim.
Wow, this is really making me reconsider everything I thought I knew about these locations and their significance.
It's a testament to the power of exploring different perspectives. And just when you think it can't get any more surprising, the author dives into the prophets, and specifically the figure of Israel.
You mean Jacob, the son of Isaac?
That's where it gets tricky.
Okay.
The author makes a distinction between Jacob and Israel, claiming they're two separate individuals. They analyze Quran 19.58, which mentions Israel alongside other prophets as evidence for their claim.
Wait, so they're proposing that there was a prophet named Israel who was distinct from Jacob?
Exactly. And they don't shy away from controversy here. They use Quran 7.174176 to paint a rather negative picture of this prophet Israel, suggesting that he broke the covenant with Allah and became a source of corruption. They even compare him to a dog panting in the heat.
Okay, that's pretty harsh judgment. It definitely challenges the traditional understanding of these figures and their roles in religious history.
It does. And this is just the beginning of the author's exploration of Israel and its implications for the modern world.
Wow, this deep dive is full of twists and turns.
It certainly is. But before we get too far ahead of ourselves, let's take a moment to process what we've uncovered so far.
Great idea. We've covered a lot of ground, from hidden names to mythical connections, alternate creation stories, and even challenges to traditional religious practices. It's a lot to take in.
It is. But that's what makes a deep dive so rewarding. We're peeling back the layers of history, religion, and interpretation to discover new perspectives and insights.
And we're just getting started. Stay tuned as we continue our exploration of this fascinating and unconventional take on Jerusalem and its significance.
Welcome back to our deep dive into Dr. Khalid Waleed's intriguing perspective on Jerusalem.
Before we went to that last thought-provoking point, we were talking about the author's claim that Israel, as a separate prophet from Jacob, broke his covenant with Allah.
Yes.
They paint a pretty harsh picture, even comparing him to a dog panting in the heat.
Yeah. It's definitely a strong image, and the author uses it to make a point about what they see as the repercussions of this broken covenant playing out even today.
So let's unpack that. They talk about the children of Israel returning to Jerusalem unlawfully. Who are they referring to here?
Well, it seems like the author is drawing a line from that ancient prophet Israel to the modern state of Israel and its presence in Jerusalem. They view it as a continuation of that original betrayal, almost like a defiance of God's will.
So they're making a direct connection between a figure from religious texts and present-day geopolitical realities. It's a bold move, to say the least.
It is. And what's interesting is how the author ties this into their broader critique of organized religion, especially its financial aspects. Remember how they called out the Vatican and Mecca as money-making machines for religious tourism?
Right. That was a pretty attention-grabbing statement. They even went so far as to claim that Mecca Petra, those incredible ruins in Jordan, was the original Mecca before being destroyed and rebuilt.
It's definitely a controversial theory, but the author backs it up with research on the economics of religious tourism, citing figures about the revenue generated from Hajj pilgrimages.
So they're not just making theological arguments, they're bringing in historical analysis and even economic data to make their point.
Exactly. It seems they're trying to get us to think critically about these established institutions and the power structures they represent. What's fascinating is how they link this critique to their argument about the direction of prayer.
Right. Their claim that the true Qibla, the direction Muslims face when praying, should be towards Jerusalem, not Mecca.
This is a huge departure from traditional Islamic practice. They cite Quran 2.142, which talks about turning in prayer towards the sacred mosque to argue their case. But they interpret that verse as referring to Jerusalem, not Mecca.
It's definitely thought-provoking, even if it's a viewpoint many would disagree with. And it connects back to their earlier point about Mecca becoming a center for religious tourism.
Exactly. They seem to be suggesting that over time, the focus shifted from the true spiritual center, Jerusalem, to Mecca, perhaps for economic and political reasons.
Okay, so we're seeing how the author is weaving together these different threads, religious texts, history, economics, even present-day geopolitics, to create this alternate narrative.
And remember how the author hinted at the importance of maps in understanding their argument. They mentioned maps of Beeke, the Valley of Gethsemane, and the Kidron Valley, suggesting these maps would support their claims.
Right. They talked about discoveries made by someone named Dr. Khalid Walid, possibly the author themselves, and how these maps reveal a different story than what's commonly understood.
It's almost as if they're leaving clues, encouraging us to do our own research and verify their findings.
And then there's that tantalizing mention of ancient manuscripts that supposedly back up their theory but are difficult to access.
Right. It makes you wonder if those manuscripts actually exist and what they might reveal. Are they historical documents, religious texts, or something else entirely? It definitely adds an air of mystery to the whole thing.
It does. What stands out to you about how the author's using their sources? They seem to be drawing from a pretty diverse range of material.
What's striking to me is how they blend religious texts with historical analysis and even economics. They're not just taking the text at face value, but looking at the context in which they were written, the power dynamics at play, and the economic factors that might have influenced their interpretation.
It makes you realize that even deeply ingrained beliefs and practices have historical and social context that can be questioned and reinterpreted.
Absolutely. It's a reminder that knowledge is dynamic, not static. Even long-held assumptions can be challenged when we approach them with a critical eye and an open mind.
Okay, so before we move on, let's recap the key takeaways from Dr. Khalid Walid's perspective. We've covered a lot of ground.
Indeed. Just to summarize, the author argues that Jerusalem, or Neek as they call it, is the true center of the world connecting earth and heaven. They challenge the traditional narratives about Adam's creation, the significance of Mecca, and even the direction of prayer for Muslims. They weave together religious texts, historical analysis, and even economic data to support their claims.
And they do it all while suggesting that there's even more evidence hidden in those ancient manuscripts just waiting to be discovered.
Exactly. They leave us with a sense of mystery, a hint that there's a deeper truth waiting to be revealed.
It's definitely a mind-bending journey, challenging many commonly held beliefs. But remember, our goal here isn't to endorse or debunk the author's claims.
Right. It's about expanding our understanding, considering different perspectives, and engaging in critical thinking. After all, that's what makes a deep dive truly rewarding.
And speaking of rewarding, the author leaves us hanging with that mention of Dhul-Qarnayn's journey to the spring of black muddy water. They hint that it connects to their idea of Jerusalem as this cosmic pedestal, but they don't fully explain how.
It's like a breadcrumb trail, leading us deeper into their theory.
Let's see where this trail takes us as we dive into the final part of our exploration. Welcome back to the final part of our deep dive into Dr. Khalid Walid's perspective on Jerusalem. It's been quite a journey, hasn't it?
It really has.
Yeah.
We've covered so much ground, from hidden names and mythical connections to alternate creation stories and challenges to long-held beliefs.
And through it all, one of the most striking images that sticks with me is the author's idea of Jerusalem as this pedestal connecting earth and heaven.
Right. That's a powerful image. Remember, they compare Earth to a fruit hanging from the tree of the cosmos, and Jerusalem is that vital stem connecting the two.
Exactly. It's like that little stalk that provides the lifeline between the fruit and the branch. And the author connects this to that intriguing verse from the Quran, 18.86, about Dhul Qarnayn and the spring of black muddy water.
Now, the author doesn't explicitly say what that spring represents or where it's located. They only hint that it ties into their idea of Jerusalem as this cosmic pedestal. What are your thoughts on that connection?
Honestly, it's a bit of a head-scratcher. On the surface, it seems like a big leap, but maybe there's a deeper symbolic meaning here that we're not grasping.
Perhaps. It's possible the author sees this spring of black muddy water as a metaphor for something else, a hidden source of knowledge or spiritual connection that's found in Jerusalem.
That's really interesting interpretation. It fits with the author's overall theme of hidden truths and obscured history. They seem to be suggesting that there's more to these stories and locations than meets the eye.
Exactly. And that brings us back to the author's tantalizing suggestion that there are ancient manuscripts out there hidden away and difficult to access that support their theories.
It's like a treasure hunt for lost knowledge. It makes you wonder what secrets those manuscripts might hold. Could they really rewrite history as we know it?
That's the big question, isn't it? And it's a question the author leaves open for us to ponder. They've given us the map, so to speak, with their interpretations and connections. Now it's up to us to decide whether to follow that map and see where it leads.
It's almost like they're issuing a challenge to dig deeper, to explore beyond what's readily available, and search for those hidden truths.
Exactly. They're inviting us to become active participants in this journey of discovery.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, I think the biggest takeaway for me is that there's always more to learn, always another perspective to consider.
I couldn't agree more. Dr. Khalid Walid has certainly given us a lot to think about. Whether we agree with their conclusions or not, they've challenged us to look at familiar things in a new light, to question assumptions, and to be open to alternative interpretations.
And isn't that what learning is all about? Expanding our minds, embracing new ideas, and never stopping the pursuit of knowledge.
Absolutely. So for all you deep divers out there, we encourage you to keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep searching for those hidden connections.
That's it for this deep dive. Thanks for joining us on this fascinating journey into Dr. Khalid Walid's unique perspective on Jerusalem. Until next time, happy exploring.